Life. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning. Starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with Nigeria in revenue crisis with huge public debt. Right, it says federal government spending of 96% of revenue on debt servicing unsustainable. 8.5 trillion naira collected by mid-September, says immediate past FIRS chair Nami. On page 9, impeachment plot. Why some senators are after Akpabio. Page 14, Tinubu appoints a Vanguard columnist Baba Ahmed as Vice President Political Advisor. On page 27, 20 feared dead as cultists clash in Sagamu. On page 14, we have uncovered plans to cause anarchy in Plateau, and that's coming from Governor Muftwang. Article 1's APC against harassment of opposition. You can see that on page 25. Stories above. Inflationary pressure depresses federal government saving bonds by 14.4%. On page 10, democracy without food, breeding ground for what to consume us, and that's coming from TINUBU. NLC to federal government, you have till Friday to meet our demands. Lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have a drama in Benin. Edo deputy governor locked out of his office. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with Nigeria's bear 1 trillion naira metering burden as CBN World Bank backpedal. And we can see a photo story showing the increases in meter prices between 2013 and 2023. Also, we can see an infograph showing all of that report. On page 3, economic insecurity, all the top Senate concerns as 2024 budget plans begin. Husband narrates how fake doctor harvested late wife's kidney. You can read more on page 8. Hunger. Tinubu addresses world leaders today on illicit financial flow, asset return. NNPCL failed to remit $6.9 billion, swap $7.1 billion worth of crude in 1 year. Litigation stalls AMCON's loan recovery, 73% of top 350 debtors in court. And that's how we can take on the Guardian. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with Atiku Obi appeals raise concern over Supreme Court cases. Right, it says panel of 7 will deplete number of justices to 4. A tribal drama at government house deepens row with Obaseki. FIRS recover 4 trillion naira tax liability from NNPC. Obasanjo justifies public rebuke of traditional rulers. Petrol importers, power firms behind anti-Akpabio plots. 5 senators, 26 reps sacked by tribunal. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with federal government NLC meeting deadlocked. Workers insist on demands. The writer says government workers must agree on concrete resolution within remaining days of ultimatum, and that's coming from NLC. Minister appeals to labor union to embrace dialogue, strike as deadline ends Friday. Also, we can see a photo story showing the demolition of illegal structure at Area 1 shopping complex in Abuja. Tension as 8 killed in Ogun community court clashes. You can see that on pages 4 and 5. Obasanjo insists on stand-up order to monarchs. You can see that on page 7. Drama as Obaseki locks out embattled deputy from government house. Stories above. Nigeria servicing 108 World Bank loans worth of $14 billion, and that's coming from a report. No easy solution to Nigeria's economic problem, says the US. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, oil companies agency owe federal government $9.85 billion revenue, and that's coming from Nati. And that's how we can take on the front pages of the papers this morning. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining in still today, the news on Vanguard Life. I am Precious Chukudi, and joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Ilupeju Today, Ikeja Today, and Lekki Today. Good morning, sir. Good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning, Precious. Good morning to all our viewers. As always, it's a pleasure to join you this morning.
All right, sir. Let's delve in to what we have this morning, and of course, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS), Dr. Zach ADEDEJI, said that the nation is in a revenue crisis and requires urgent step to change the narrative. He also said that about 96% of federal government's revenue was spent on debt servicing last year. What's your take?
Well, we all knew that the Buhari administration went on a borrowing spree throughout its 8-year term and increased our debt portfolio astronomically. And they tried to justify it back then by saying, look, there's nothing inherently wrong with borrowing as long as you know you can service the debt and you are using the money for beneficial purposes, for infrastructure, for long-term reform that's going to benefit the people. That if you are waiting until you have enough cash in hand to do certain things, you'll be waiting forever and you won't develop. So that's a sound economic argument. But it's also premised on the fact that you can service the debt and still have enough left to meet your needs. What the new FIRS chairman is saying is that after looking at the books, he's discovering that we are using 96% of our revenue to service outstanding debt. That 4% that's left over is not adequate to meet our day-to-day needs. So we're in a problem. And of course, part of the reason for this is that we have a revenue shortfall. Revenue shortfall from the fact that, well, restiveness in the Niger Delta pipeline, vandalism, oil theft, corruption, so many other things. The fact that there's a glut in the oil market because so many people are looking at renewable energy and oil is not as big in demand as before. And the fact that we are a monofocal economy that is almost completely dependent on oil for foreign exchange. And then oil is now not selling. So our revenues are depleted at a time when we have a lot of debt to service. Meanwhile, the other side of the accounting equation is the expenses. Our expenses are not going down, instead they are going up. Look, for example, now we have 48 ministers. Constitution mandates you to have 36, we now have 48. That's an extra 12 ministries to fund. And we don't see any of the political players offering salary cuts or cutting allowances. So cost of governance is going up. Cost of even social welfare programs. Look, for example, these palliatives, they were never planned before, but now government has to look for money to be able to provide palliatives to the people. Yes, they save money from subsidy, that they no longer subsidize fuel, and that money that they save from subsidy is what they're supposed to be putting into palliatives and other infrastructure. But the point is this: revenue is low, expenses are high, debts are astronomical. So that equation cannot balance, and that's what the FIRS chairman is saying. So to me, what I'm hearing from him now is that he's basically telling the country to be prepared that they're going to tax us a lot more, especially corporations. Corporations are going to get taxed because he's looking at it and he's saying, where are we going to get this revenue from? We have revenue shortfall, how are we going to make it up? So companies are going to get taxed. Corporate taxes will probably get increased. Personal income tax might also go up because the government is desperate for revenue. And where is it going to get it from? The only thing you do is you either reduce expenditure, which this government has not shown a capability to do so far, or you increase revenue. How do you increase revenue if oil is not selling? How do you increase revenue if many of your oil wells are shut in and there's a lot of pipeline vandalism and theft? Yes, of course, law enforcement. But that takes time to be able to plug all the loopholes where all the theft is occurring and to be able to curb the corruption. It'll take time. So what I think we should do is brace up for tax increase. That's what I think. Where I think the FIRS chairman was going.
Okay. How do you think we can optimize revenue generation?
Well, that's one of the things I just talked about. Is obviously look at bringing more people into the tax net. Make sure tax cheats and tax avoiders are brought to book. Make sure that every kobo of revenue that's going to the government. Take for example, look at online betting. For example, this whole idea of Naira bet and all this betting. It is a huge revenue spinner, but I understand that the oversight is so poor that government is only getting a fraction of the taxation it should get. I mean, gambling revenues in America funds education, almost completely funds education in the United States of America. And the kind of turnover that gambling is doing in Nigeria, government should get a substantial amount of revenue from that. But because corporate oversight, corporate governance in terms of oversight of the gambling industry in Nigeria is very weak. And so they are not getting the kind of revenue they should be able to get from there. So these are some of the things government can look at is what are some of the additional ways, which is why I'm quite excited about this new FIRS chairman. He's reputed to be a brilliant fellow. He's reputed to be upstanding, a man of rectitude and high moral standards, and very, very intelligent. So I think he will figure out how to create more revenue streams for government without necessarily passing the burden on to the common man. We've heard all the good, feel good stuff. Oh, let's diversify our economy away from oil. Let's look at agriculture. We've been hearing that mantra for years and years and years, but it's never really happened. So I think this government has to really focus on non-oil revenue in terms of bringing money into government's coffers. Look at our Nollywood, our music, our movies that's making splash internationally. How can those things translate to money to government? Are entertainers taxed? A portion of the monies they make overseas when they go and do shows? How does that translate to revenue for government? If they are earning money in Nigeria, the fact that they go and do a show overseas does not mean that the revenue is not accruing to them locally. So taxation is big, diversification away from oil is also big, and then the big thing is plugging leakages. That alone will bring a lot of money to government. They can reduce corruption, plug a lot of leakages in contract awards, ghost workers, inflated contracts, all kinds of shenanigans that go on in government. They are a drain pipe for revenue leakage. If those leakages can be plugged, government will have a lot more money at its disposal.
All right, moving on. The NLC, that's the Nigerian Labour Congress, they said yesterday that the government still has like till Friday to meet its demand or risk another round of industrial unrest. And I mean, we've been coming from weeks that we've seen, meetings upon meetings, and also, some warning actions and all of that. It seems like the NLC is not making headways when it comes to the government in terms of meeting, the palliatives that Nigerians have been asking for, just cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. What's your take?
Yeah, well, the NLC says it's speaking for the people, and they are daggers drawn with government. They've given 5 demands, of course, which includes this whole palliative distribution, review of the minimum wage. There are 5 things that the NLC is standing on. And they had a meeting with the Minister of Labour, the new Minister of Labour, Simon Lalong. I'm not sure how experienced or capable he is to handle these negotiations on behalf of government. I watched part of the proceedings yesterday between Labour and the ministry, and it seemed as if Joe Ajero and Minister Lalong just simply couldn't get along and couldn't understand each other. So that might be a stumbling block in these negotiations. I remember in the days of Minister Chris Ngige, he wouldn't take nonsense from anybody. He wouldn't allow NLC to run roughshod over him. But Mr. Lalong seems a bit too tame for this job. He seems a bit too docile to where, Labour is able to strong arm him. But nonetheless, well, if Labour is genuine in its agitations, and there's a lot of question as to Labour's honesty and candor in this issue, because many times in the past, they've rattled their saber, and at the last minute, they've fallen back, leading many people to believe they are settleable, that they get settled, they make a lot of noise, government calls them in the night into one room, gives them Garabos, go backs, next morning they come and they say they are not striking anymore. So a lot of people have questioned the Labour movement's integrity, and that kind of compromises its ability to stand for the people. The other issue NLC is having is that TUC, which is a sister union, and is also a very formidable union that has a lot of sub-unions underneath it. TUC is not in sync with Labour's approach or with Labour's ideology on this particular issue. TUC is holding back, basically saying they're not flowing along with the way NLC is going. And my thoughts are, anything NLC wants to do, if TUC doesn't join them to do it, it will either fail or it will be half-hearted. You saw the strike the other day, the warning strike, 2-day warning strike. TUC didn't participate, and as a result, that strike was not very effective because the whole economy was not shut down. There are pockets of the economy that continued to operate during that strike because TLC didn't participate. So I know that TLC is not on board with this strike. I'm not sure with this proposed strike. I think they said Friday 21st or so is when they will down tools. If as long as TUC is not on board, and as long as people don't have too much faith in the integrity of the NLC, I think it's best for them to try and just come to an understanding with government and call this strike off. I don't see how this strike can be beneficial to anybody. It will hurt the people who need help the most.
Okay, it sort of feels like the government is not really looking at the current economic challenges faced by the people, because we've been having conversations on what palliatives they are going to give to the people, as well as we've been hearing various forms of funds that have been being with the government, and in terms of how they want to start to share the sharing formula and all of that, but yet we're yet to see anything. What's your take? And when you look at this whole thing, it feels like it's a case of let's just continue to pay lip service, and these people will just keep buying more time. Like, the government is not really sure in terms of what they intend to do, and Nigerians are just looking cap in hand. Every day goes by, they continue to suffer for what they do not even understand. Can you speak to that?
Nigeria is a very complex country. I put it to you that there's no palliative or any social good that government wants to distribute that won't have problems. There is no sharing formula that will ever be considered to be fair. That's not to say we shouldn't try to do it fairly, but the current palliative distribution and even the whole palliative exercise itself is already suffused in problems. I don't know if you saw a video yesterday of some council chairman and a commissioner in Ondo State who actually got to fisticuffs. A man struck a woman, he hit her when she came to this. I think she was the commissioner, he was the ward chairman, and she came to physically distribute palliatives in the ward. First and foremost, why should a commissioner be the one out there distributing bags of rice and beans? I don't understand. And then why should instigate a ward chairman? I believe he was complaining about the distribution method. There will always be complaints that it's not fair. Oh, you are giving favored people. Oh, you are giving party operatives. Oh, you are not giving those who really deserve. You've kept some of it behind. You didn't bring all of it. So there will always be these issues about how this distribution is done. Look, for example, when it was at the national level, people complain about the National Social Register. How did you find these 20 million poor people? Who are they? How did they register? Where did they come from? How are you going to give them the money when they don't have bank accounts? They are poor people. So, look, bottom line is this: Nigerians need help. How they get it, we don't care. As long as it is straightforward, it is honest, it is equitable. The bottom line is get help to people quickly. It brings great anguish to one's heart when one sees videos of one bag of rice taken to a village of 200 people. By the time they share it, it's probably one dirika for each person. It's painful. So you ask yourself, is this program, is it honest? Is it really intended to solve problems? Or, like you said, is it just eye service? Is it just lip service to make it look like government is doing something? But having said that, let's not forget what I said earlier. Nigeria is very, very complex. There's no program like this that will ever be straightforward, that will ever be without complaints, that will ever be seamless in the unfolding. So let's just hope government gets it right. I don't think anybody has a magic wand to say, how do we do it? At one point, the federal government was going through the distribution, then it passed it on to the governors to do. Then when there were complaints about how the governors were doing it, now they've devolved it to the local government and there are still complaints. So, but I put it to you that there's no way it will be done. There's no methodology by which it will be done when there will be complaints. So let's forget the complaints. Put the complaints aside, focus on getting the job done, and let's get as much help as we can to as many Nigerians as need it.
All right. The president has also said that that democracy without food on the table is a breeding ground for what will consume the people if care is not taken. How do you react?
Yes, that's interesting. It brings me back to something that Chief Obafemi Awolowo said a long time ago. in the politics of the 50s and 60s, when he said something to the effect of, the children of the poor that you are not training today will turn around and be the ones who will eat your children in the future. And that seems to echo the sentiment of what President Tinubu is trying to say, is that if we don't adequately provide for the poor, right, poverty will consume even the middle class and the well-to-do. How will it do? Because those who don't have will begin to prey on those who have. We've had doomsday scenarios where they paint pictures of rich men driving in their jeeps on the Korodu Road and people pulling them out of their jeeps and forcibly taking their wallets, taking things of value from them because people are hungry. So the truth of the matter is, look, hunger knows no gentlemanism. Hunger knows no easy road. When people are hungry, they get desperate. And I think the president was sounding a warning that let's get this economy right. Because there have been some complaints already about his economic team. He's appointed a new CBN governor. He's appointed a new Federal Revenue Service. He's appointed a minister for the economy. He's appointed a whole bunch of people to run his economic team. And there be complaints that, oh, these are nepotistic appointments. They are all Lagos people. They are all his friends and so on. And where he's coming from is that I picked the most competent. I didn't look at where they're from. I picked the people I know who are tried and tested, who can do the job of resuscitating the economy. So perhaps he was saying that yesterday to justify his selections of those who are going to revamp the economy, to let them know that put parochial sentiments aside of ethnicity, of religion, of where people come from, or who's friend, and let's focus on who can get the job done. And that's what he has done. He has appointed those he believes can revamp the economy, because the situation we're in is where hunger and poverty will consume all of us if we don't address the issues that are pressing. And that's what he's trying to do.
All right, let's just touch on the drama in Benin. Edo deputy governor locked out of his office. How do you react to that video that we saw online?
Yeah, that video was heart-wrenching because it looked like a big embarrassment to where the deputy governor got to his office and there's a big chain on the gate and it's locked. He can't get in. He's effectively locked out. Well, we had word last week that the governor had relocated the deputy governor's offices out of Government House to another building down the road. Well, the deputy governor claimed that he got no official communication to that effect, that his office has been relocated. So he tried to go to Government House and to his office in Government House and he couldn't get in. This is all a fallout of the power tussle or the rancor between the governor and the deputy governor. What is causing it? The deputy governor has an ambition to be the next governor. Now, which deputy governor do you know that has really ever succeeded his principal? The governors never really back their deputies to succeed them for one reason or the other. Now, in Edo, there are two things that are working against the deputy governor. Number one, where he's from, they believe that the next governor should come from the ESA division of Edo State because they have never produced the governor. They produced Osumo for a very short while, but it was removed by the Supreme Court. So there's this notion of fairness of power rotation in terms of the senatorial districts. It should rotate to the ESA people next. And unfortunately, Shuaibu is not from there. That's number one. Number two, let us remember that Governor Obaseki defected from the APC to the PDP at the last minute. He had to negotiate with the PDP to be able to get their ticket. Remember, there were already people in the PDP who were aspiring to the governorship who already had tickets or who had nominations. They stepped it all down for Governor Obaseki because he believed he could win. He was a popular governor after his first term. So they stepped it down. But there was a negotiation that said, after your term ends, your second term ends as PDP governor, you will support the person who was already waiting in PDP who stepped down his ambition for you. So Obaseki is saying he cannot violate that understanding, that they made a dispensation and gave him their ticket, which really was not entitled to because there were other people who have been working for the PDP and who are in line. So he has to honor that agreement as far as he's concerned because they stepped down their ambition for him. He cannot now turn his back on that agreement and betray them and now support Shuaibu to succeed him. So he's standing by that agreement and saying no. So that's the basic source of the problem. But for it to have now gotten to the level of locking you out, um, relocating your office. He got to a function the other day where he had to walk out because they said his media is couldn't accompany him. So it's getting very petty now. It's getting petty, and it doesn't speak well for our political process. It doesn't look nice. The optics are not good. I mean, politics is supposed to be played fairly. We should be gentlemanly. I mean, they should call themselves into a room out of camera and discuss this thing. And if Obaseki tells him, look, this is the bottom line. I can't betray a commitment I made 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I make him understand. Then of course Shaibu has the option, because now I hear that they are working to impeach him. He has the option to leave the party and go find another party that he can run. If he thinks he's independently popular enough to win an election, why is he banging his head on the PDP ticket alone? If he thinks he can independently win, then let him resign from the PDP, resign from the governorship, then go and try his luck from another smaller party and let's see. But either way, it doesn't speak well. But I'm not surprised. We've seen this kind of problem between governor and deputy governor. It happens almost everywhere, and it's not new, but it's not nice. It's not nice to see.
Mm. All right, let's take Mr. and Mrs. before we go. And Mrs. is speaking this morning. Says you want to leave your family and 50-inch color TV to watch the premiership in a pub with tiny-legged service girls, and you get the liver to tell me that. And Mr. says, and why not? Not just liver, but a pool of livers. I am a strong supporter of Liverpool.
A pool of livers, Liverpool. Okay, nice one. Well, when it comes to football and men, you can't separate the issue. You want war if you try to get in the way of men watching football. The issue of skinny leg waitresses has separate by the side. I don't subscribe to that with Mister. But in terms of watching his football, yes, let him pull the levers and be Liverpool prevail this season. Upwards.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, publisher of Liquid Today, Kejas Day and Lekki Today. Thank you for sharing your thought with us this morning.
Pleasure is all mine. Always happy to be here. Good morning, Nigeria.
Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media channels showing on your screen. To find out today's stories, you can go to our website, www.vanguardngl.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and thank you.